what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you are consuming this podcast. Greatly appreciate you. Today's episode is brought to you by the law offices of William Mattar. Heard of the car? Call William Mattar, 444-4444. Call William Mattar today to get the compensation that you deserve. All right, folks, this is our last podcast before Thanksgiving. As always, I'm joined for this midweek episode by my good buddy over at SB Nation, Matt Warren. What's going on, man? How you doing? What's up?
Oh, just having a nice little November. Once we turn the corner here into Thanksgiving, it's crunch time. We're like only 3 weeks away from Christmas here. When we get back, it's super late for Thanksgiving.
This last month and a half has just flown by. I feel like we were talking, it would be the beginning of October. I remember we were talking about, I think it was week 4, Bills, Patriots, or week 5, whatever it was. It feels like it was an eternity ago. It wasn't. What are you up to Thanksgiving? What do you got going on? You got people coming over? You going out? What are you doing?
No, and one of the reasons that Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, it's not just because I love eating and I love turkey and gravy and all that stuff. It's because it's the one holiday we don't host at my house. And so I'm driving a whole mile to my wife's aunt's house, and I'm going to eat and I'm going to watch football, and I'll have my laptop there because I work on Thanksgivings now, because I cover the NFL.
Sure.
But I'll have, a couple of pops and some pie, and it'll be delightful. And then I get to come home and watch another football game when I get home. So it is my favorite holiday, mainly because I don't have to do anything. And I think Kyle Brandt actually nailed this really well this week in his 10 takes, is that it's not just that Thanksgiving's awesome, that you get to sit around and eat and watch football all day. It's like that anticipatory holiday. You get to look forward to the Christmas stuff. You get to look forward to the New Year's stuff, the end of the football season, and like meaningful football games. And so, Christmas movies, all the December stuff that you get to look forward to is part of, hitting Thanksgiving too. So it really is a season of thanks and hope and all this other stuff this week. And I couldn't agree with him more.
Thanksgiving's always been my favorite holiday. It's, Christmas is awesome, but Christmas could be rough on families at times. You know what I mean? You got kids, or even if you don't got kids, being able to, we always go a little above and beyond, and you pay for it when those credit card statements start coming in January and you get set back. It happens so much. So it's fun. It's awesome. It could also be a huge financial burden, whereas Thanksgiving is just chilling out and eating with your close people.
If I recall correctly, you have a very weird Thanksgiving plate.
Yes. Here's the plate. It's turkey and it's gravy and some biscuits. That's it. Nothing else. I don't like stuffing. I don't like any side stuff. I don't even like, I only like mashed potatoes if they're instant. You know, the ones you get the little mixes, you put them in and you boil with the water. It's
my Irish heart is breaking for you right now.
I know it is. It's let me tell you something. So I've been married for 24 years, and I don't have family in Buffalo anymore. Not the family, from when I was a kid. My father's long been gone. My mother and sister live in Virginia. So I've been going to my wife's family for almost a quarter century now, and I got for years made fun of that. And then I would have to hide. I'd have to pretend a little bit, like I'd put a little tiny bit of mashed potatoes or a little bit of corn on my plate. Just a tiny bit to look like I had something else, although I would never end up eating it. It would just be turkey.
Sad.
For me. We're going to get into in just a minute our weekly Bills. Now, this is a little bit of a weird week because it was so long ago since the Bills last played, but we're going to go back. And it's not even so much just about that game, just kind of like positionally how the Bills looked last week, where we think they're at. And then, of course, as always, you side of gray. We got a little bit of time at the end. We'll get into Pittsburgh here a little bit as well. A couple things that I wanted to ask you before we dive into what we always do with our episodes here. Well, actually, last weekend, I haven't talked to you. And by the way, Twitter sucks recently. I don't know, you send me a message about what time you're available. I'm getting half the messages. There's somebody from a Steelers podcast to reach out to me. I never, I look like kind of a dick because I never replied. Never even saw the DM. I don't know what is going on with with Twitter when it comes to DMs, but
the mobile stuff has been really hit and miss. You have to use a pass key or whatever it is. I don't know.
It's stupid, man. It's stupid. Like, I didn't even know that you had sent me a message. I'm like, where's Matt, man? What is he up to? Because usually we set our time and everything for this episode. But anyway, I haven't talked to you in the last handful of days. Did you watch the holiday touchdown Hallmark movie, the Bills movie, over this weekend?
I didn't, just because I was working Sunday night. It came out Sunday, right?
Saturday night.
Okay, so Saturday night. No, we didn't watch it Saturday night. We had something going on. I didn't watch it Sunday because we had something going on. I didn't watch it Monday because we had something going on. So like, I will watch it. I'm excited to watch it. I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched like a Hallmark Christmas movie before, but I'm excited to watch this one. I've seen clips. Obviously, I know Paula's Donuts was sharing like, how cool is it that we're in this movie? Like all this other stuff, and like Talbot and all those guys. So I'm definitely going to watch it. It just is probably not going to be a pre-Thanksgiving watch for me.
That's totally fair. Make sure you check it out, though. I think it's worth it. I'm not going to give another review on the show. Joe from Queens and I went out for about a half hour. I kind of bullied him into watching it, and next thing we in hindsight, like I probably should have put that at the back end of the show, because if people don't care about that movie, they surely turn off the podcast, because we probably went freaking 25 minutes or so talking about it. But the only thing I will say is, from a Buffalo perspective, like you talked about, the very first scene, I'm not going to give spoilers away per se, but the very, very first scene of the movie, as soon as it starts, is Barbell right away. And the people, a lot of them anyway, that are in that very, very cameos, first scene. Like Perino and Talbot are at the bar. They're Bills fans in there. They're not media people, which is kind of funny. You see Kristen Kimmick briefly, Bills Elvis, Del Reed. Some of those guys are in the very, very first scene. Sal Capaccio's got a couple scenes, which are relatively early as well. Yeah. But the people that the cameos that are very early with those people. And then, of course, Bills people scattered throughout.
The criticism I've heard is that people from outside Western New York don't think Bills fans like wear their Bills gear everywhere all the time, and I'm here to tell them that they are wrong, very wrong, and that might be the most believable part of the movie, having not seen the movie at this point.
It's very realistic and it's very accurate. There were a couple, there's a couple of Buffalo dialogue things like Marla, or else would you rather be being used in everyday life. Now that was a little hyperbole and over the top and dumb. But yeah, you're right, man. Bills pride, people wearing Bills gear all the time. I know some people who don't wear anything other than Bills gear. So yeah, that is very well represented. It's very accurate. I do want to say too, I did write up a full review of this. If you go to my Substack, and it's in my show notes, I wrote about that. I write about a lot of movies. I like to do reviews, and I kind of do them in fun ways, not really a professional way. Like this isn't going to be like a New York Times interview or review, something like that. But I put together, an intro, hits, misses, and then ultimately a verdict and a grade. And I do this especially. I'm a sucker for Christmas movies, dude. I love Christmas movies. That's my lane. So cheesy, corny Christmas movies is actually my lane. So if you want to check out my review on this, go to my Substack. Like I said, it's in the show notes for this episode. Just click that link and you can read that.
Better or worse than the Chiefs one?
Oh, this was way better.
Okay,
and I'm not just saying, and I promise you, I am being objective. I am being unbiased. I would tell you, I would be honest with you. This one was way better than the Chiefs one. Like if this would have been, now, your heart's into it a little more if you're a Bills fan, because there's just so many, especially if you're in Buffalo, just because of all the references. But this could have been an Indianapolis Colts love story. And I'm telling you, the plot and the actors were good enough that you're going to laugh and cringe a little bit, because, again, it's a Hallmark Christmas movie, man. This isn't Scrooged or, an all-time, Christmas classic. But this was decent. It was decent, even if you strip away the Buffalo stuff. But the Buffalo stuff is very important to the movie as well. So, yeah, everybody, if you didn't check it out, I think it's worth watching, okay? I don't think you're going to get blown away, but I do think it's worth the watch. And if you hate cheesy movies, well, you'll have plenty of shit to make fun of.
Okay.
Just put it that way. Speaking of, that's a good segue here. Things that people are making fun of, whether it's right or wrong. Some news here as we record on Tuesday. I always say this, Matt and I are recording late Tuesday morning. In case something happens before you listen to this on Wednesday, we didn't cover it. It's because we have recorded already. But the Buffalo Bills have signed Shaq Lawson to the practice squad, not to the active roster for now anyway, to the practice squad. Obviously I got thoughts. What are yours? I'll let you go first.
I
What do you
mean,
got?
it's pretty much the same thing when they signed Jordan Phillips and Jordan Poyer. Like, I don't have a problem with them bringing those guys in for depth on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think there are other people that I would rather see? Maybe. But like at this point of the season, like if you're signing someone to a practice squad, it means they're not on a practice squad right now. So they're not even good enough to be on another team's practice squad. It's just slim pickings. Like these are like not household names. Like I just I don't expect like an impact player at this point of the season. And so I guess that's kind of where I'm approaching it from. And I'm just telling people like there's people that are like, oh, Brandon Beane only knows how to bring in former Bills. Like he's bringing in a former first round pick that has had sacks and success in this system like recently, like 2 years ago. Like success is like a relative term, let's be honest. But like
Mm-hmm.
he's a person that can play in the system who is only 30 years old. Like there might be one or two defensive ends that are out there right now that you could even have that conversation and include that. Like, I mean, if he brings in, say, Jerry Hughes, 37-year-old Jerry Hughes right now, who had like one game for the Texans last year, I think that's a little bit different. That's like really far gone. Like
Yeah.
this is a guy who's 30 years old. He's not like, some schmuck that's couldn't contribute if they needed him to. I don't expect him to play, but they've had a lot of injuries at defensive end, and like they've got TJ Sanders and Daquan Jones taking meaningful snaps at defensive end. Like they obviously need defensive end help, and I don't know why people are poo-pooing a guy that could potentially just play some snaps that can't be that much worse than Javon Solomon.
I agree with everything you said, with the exception of one thing.
Yeah.
You said you don't expect him to play. I absolutely do expect him to play. I completely expect him to play. Soon. Later in the season, before the regular season's over. Hopefully there's going to be other games beyond the regular season. I do expect him to play. I'll explain why here in a second. Let me tell you what my reaction was if I could find the tweet. All right, there it is. This is what I tweeted in real time. This just happened a half hour ago, by the way, first I recorded. Here's what I said, and I'll read it for people listening. I said, I have no problem with the Bills signing Shaq Lawson to the practice squad in Week 13. Familiarity matters this late in the season.
Yeah.
I do have a problem with the Bills' defensive line personnel decision-making over the past 4 years.
Well,
it's been perhaps the worst thing about this entire franchise. Yeah, it's been bad, man. They've a lot of resources, man, a lot of draft capital, a lot of financial, free agent signings, things that they've tried to do. And here we are again with Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson both on this roster. Jordan Phillips is playing every week. I do think Shaq Lawson is going to be up sooner than later, too, as well. I understand the move, and I also understand why Bills fans are going to poo-poo this, to use a funny term here, with what's going on. And you said you didn't expect him to play. I do, and I'm going to tell you why.
Well, he's going to eventually have the opportunity if they can't get some of these guys back from injury. I'm just saying, like, I don't expect him to sign on Tuesday, November 25th and play this Sunday against the Steelers.
No, but you know why he's going to play? What's Shaq Lawson really good at? What's his best trait?
Run defense.
What's really bad with Joey Bosa? What's becoming you and I, novice people who we're smart. I like to think we're smart football people. We're not film experts. We're not gurus. We're not cutting up film and making all these conclusions. But we can tell, just like everyone else, that Joey Bosa has really been bad in recent weeks against the run. I mean, really, really bad. And Javon Solomon is not a run defender, and they're playing TJ freaking Sanders at edge.
Well, right. And that was going to be my point, is that like, I don't expect him to be taking, very many snaps from Joey Bosa, but like if he comes in and plays defensive end so that TJ Sanders can play defensive tackle, that should be a win for Bills fans. They should see that as a net positive, even if he's not as good of a player as TJ Sanders. Like watching TJ Sanders try to set the edge last week was just like not a good look.
Painful.
Like it was bad.
Painful. Let me ask you a question. This is a legitimate question. I'm not being sarcastic. Shaq Lawson, dude, Shaq Lawson, not only has he not been on a team this season or a practice squad, he wasn't even in camp with the team this summer.
Yeah.
He was not even in camp. He played
it's been over
14 snaps in 2024 last year with Carolina, and that's it. And he hasn't played since.
He hasn't been on a roster in 13 months.
Yeah. And if this, I guess my question is a legitimate question. Why now? Like, why Andre Jones Jr. or whoever, they cut Andre Jones from the practice squad. If this is going to be your move, if this was a move that you really want to do, why didn't you do this 5, 6, 7 weeks ago? I don't understand this late in the season. I don't get it.
But I mean, part of it was that both Landon Jackson and Michael Hoyt both were injured in the last couple weeks. They had a short week last week. Like, you can at least see the progression through, defensive end. Oh shit, we've got Daquan Jones and TJ Sanders playing defensive end snaps. Like, you could see that progression. But yeah, if he could have been on the practice squad a few weeks ago, except for they'd used all their veteran exceptions on the practice squad. So that maybe they didn't think they needed him because they had Hoyt and Landon Jackson in reserve.
That's a good point.
And then like when McCole Hardman gets pulled off the practice squad, they have the veteran position available. So like there's a little bit of that roster juggling in there. But yeah, 13 months since he's even been on an NFL roster in an NFL practice is a very long time.
That's a good point, too, because you're right. I forgot about that, actually. You can only have a certain amount of vested veterans on your practice squad, so I'd have to go back and I'd have to look. But even a couple weeks ago, they worked out Morgan Fox, or they did sign to the practice squad. He's there now. Damone Harris, a defensive end, and I personally know very well he had a really good workout with the Bills. No, Shaq Lawson and Damone was a vested veteran, and so was Morgan Fox. So he didn't work out a couple weeks ago when they signed one. I don't know. It's just weird to me, but
it might be a Morgan Fox conversation. Like, it might just be that like they don't think that he can step in and play meaningful snaps for them after but then they would have probably released him here. So I don't really know.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. Not this week. I don't think they're really going to do anything different this week, but maybe over the next couple of weeks between Shaq and Fox. They've only been playing 4 edge guys, and I think that's going to change. I think they'll be playing 5 edge guys. Ideally, Fox is a guy that he's kind of a lighter version. I mean, by lighter, I mean not as good version of Michael Hoyt. And again, Shaq Lawson, if nothing else. I don't hate the signing. In fact, of all the retreads that they're bringing back, this is one that I got really nothing to complain about. I complained about Jordan Poyer, but I was wrong.
He's been better than I expected.
Me too. So I get this move. And again, the way the Bills are playing run defense, A.J. Epinesa and Joey Bosa just getting fooled time and time again, getting crashing inside and just not being effective against the run. I absolutely could see a role for Shaq Lawson to come play some early downs on this team before long.
I just started thinking that we might get some social media videos with Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips again.
Oh, 100% that's going to happen.
Let's go.
The vibes are going to be good. I'll say this, though, because this was my back end thought. He might get cut.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan Phillips.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Jordan Phillips. Jordan Phillips or Fedarian Mathis. Did Mathis go on IR yet? I can't remember. I don't know.
I have it pulled up in front of me. I don't think he did. I think
think he's so either. Anyway, both of those guys are not going to be on the Bills' active roster for long. Whether one of them get cut or whether Mathis goes on IR, I can totally see them
on the active roster.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
but yeah, they both can't stay on there, especially if they're going to get another defensive end into the rotation. Phillips, his playing time's been going down. As they get guys healthier, they're going to need roster spots. And so hopefully they need roster spots because guys get healthy and come back.
Sure. Yeah. And Solomon, my first instinct is, well, Lawson can get elevated. He can get through some elevations and you can see Solomon, but Solomon plays special teams and he's actually made some plays on special teams too. So I don't think that's going to change. We'll see how it plays out. But anyway, Shaq Lawson is a Bill. And then the other thing, I've been thinking about this a lot, just analyzing the Bills and their struggles. I think everyone can conclude that right now this is not a good road team. They've lost 3 games on the road that they were favored in, and I didn't realize this. Jay Skursky originally pointed out, and I went and looked it up. I was like, holy shit, I didn't realize it. The Bills are 11-11 on the road since 2023. I mean, they're literally dead smack at 500. They're not a great road team to begin with. But I go back and I look back to last year and I'm like, all right, well, what are some of the problems this year to last year? Josh Allen is not playing as well as he did last year. He's not protecting the football, of course, as well as he did last year. The offensive line's not playing as well as they did last year. Receivers don't get open. Last year was everybody eats. It didn't seem to be that problem. defense they were crappy a lot last year, couldn't get off the field, but they made up for it in other ways, which kind of led me, Matt, to my conclusion. Like, what's the big difference between this year and last year? It's not, to me, it's not the O-line. It's not even Joe Brady. It's not the receivers not getting open or the defense struggling to stop the run and all this other stuff and injuries. They've been problems last year, too. The big difference, and it's a simple one, but it's a big one, and that, to me, is turnovers. And I went in and spent some time. I was laying in bed. All right, quick little backstory. Monday night, I go to bed. I'm just dead tired. I don't feel great. It's 9:30. I never go to bed that early, but I go to bed. And I'm laying down, and I often, maybe to a fault, I think about the show. Like, what are we going to talk about now? What are we going to do, this and that? I almost got out of bed to write down notes so I didn't forget to get up in the morning and look it up. Like, Bills turnovers. And then I started looking it up early this morning. The Bills had 8 turnovers last year.
Yep.
They got 15 right now in 11 games, which is 9th most in the NFL. So 15 this year versus 8 all of last year. Here's the teams that have turned the ball over more than the Bills this season. The Vikings, the Seahawks, Frisco, Miami, the Saints, the Bengals, the Panthers, and the Raiders. Seattle's a good team. San Francisco's a pretty good team. Those other teams stink. So, generally speaking, stinky teams turn the ball over way too much. And then you go back to these losses this year. The Houston loss, the Bills had 3 turnovers, 0 takeaways. The Miami loss, 3 turnovers, 2 takeaways. The Atlanta loss, 2 turnovers, 0 takeaways. The New England loss. Now, New England's a good team, but the Bills played them at home. The Bills don't lose at home. They had 3 turnovers in that game, the Bills. 1 takeaway. So you take their 4 losses this year, Matt. The Bills have turned the ball over 11 times. They've only taken the ball away 3 times. That's a -8. This was the best team in the NFL last year in turnover differential. This year, in their 4 losses, they're a -8. 11 turnovers for the Bills in those 4 losses. And again, even if you throw the New England loss because they're a good team out the window, the 3 teams that they had no business losing to, 8 turnovers in those 3 games. I didn't realize what a big factor turning the ball over has been for the Buffalo Bills this year.
Yeah, I think it's more of the symptom than the actual root cause. You've got your Josh Allen 4th down interceptions that still count as a turnover, even though him throwing it in the dirt wouldn't. Like, there's a couple of those. I also think that last year was a statistical outlier. They only turned the ball over on 4.6% of their drives last season, which was 2nd in the NFL. I think that's the outlier, not necessarily this year where they've turned it over 12%. Like, that's a little high for them.
Wow.
But it's like, it's not completely out of the ordinary. So it's more than twice as much as last year, which is obviously concerning. But I do think it has more to do with the way that the offense is being called and the offensive structure, and Josh Allen being super frustrated at the wide receivers not getting open, than it does like, oh, they're just turning it over, or they're making poor decisions or whatever it is. And so I do think that it's more of a symptom rather than the cause of the problems.
That's a very fair explanation. I'll say this too. It's also a 2-part thing. When I think they're losing because they're turning the ball over too much, and you pointed out, that's kind of like last year was almost an anomaly, but they're also not taking the ball away in losses this year, and that's a big deal. I go back to this Houston game and all the praise being heaped on the defense, and I don't want to sound like a neggy Nancy and a hater, okay? The defense held them to 3 points in the second half and like 35 yards. I know people will say, well, what more can you do? I would say Davis Mills is their quarterback and they can't do anything well. Take the ball away. Take the ball away from them. Your offense was stuck in mud and they could not block a Houston, Texas defender to save their life. And it was very clear, we'll talk about coaching maybe in a little bit, where it almost felt like Houston knew what plays they were running. The whole game, the offense, I feel like the Bills could have had the ball 4 more times at the end of the game, and Josh Allen was more likely to get taken to the ER than the Bills were to get in the end zone and win that game. That's just how I feel. The defense, for as well as they played, they didn't take the ball, or they did not turn the ball over, and I think that was a very big problem in this game. Let's do this. We're going to take a real quick break. We're going to come back on the other side, and we will get right back into our positional analysis. Be right back after this break.
Is it?
Yep. Back. Gotcha. You're on the screen? Yes, you are. All right. Let's get going here. Positional analysis. Like I said, right before the break, I was just talking about the Bills defense that as well as they played against Houston, the way the offense was playing, I think they needed to get a turnover, and that was just something they weren't able to do, and that hurt them. But yeah, turnovers are a problem for sure with this team. Let's get into our weekly positional analysis. And, speaking of problems with turnovers, we'll start at quarterback. Josh Allen, 24-34, 253 yards, no touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. That first one was a bad interception. The kind of desperation 4th down at the end of the game. That first one was just flat out bad. Sacked 8 times. Career high 8 times. How much you want to put that on the line, the coverage, Josh himself? Well, you'll be doing that here in a second. 8 sacks, 70 yards he lost too. 5 carries for 20 yards. The nightmares in Houston continue for the Buffalo Bills as a team and Josh Allen specifically. What do you got?
Yeah, I gave him a C-, which I think is probably my lowest grade of him for the entire season. I do put at least most of the stuff as far as the sacks go on him. There were times when he held the ball too long. There were times when he tried to escape and wasn't able to. And I know the Texans head coach was talking about this after the game, is that they left a lot of one-on-one blocking assignments for the offensive line, which we'll get to here in a second. Yeah. And then they just expect Josh to create. So they expect him to get out of the pocket, extend plays. And when he's not able to do that, because the defensive ends for the Houston Texans are really, really good, he just didn't have an answer, and neither did Joe Brady. And we'll talk about coaching later too. But I do think that this is part of Josh relying too much on his escapability from time to time and his ability to create. And so that's why I did ding him for this. Offense only scored 12 points. He just needs to learn to throw it away sometimes too. There was that one time where he's like running and then he finds a guy and turns around, runs the other guy. And he just did it for forever. And I know he gets away with that a lot, but there's times when you're not going to get away with it and you need to either throw it away or figure out where to go with the ball before that. And maybe it's his wide receivers not getting open, whatever it happens to be. But this was his worst game of the season, in my opinion, C-.
There's one play that if you really want to say, Josh, you just got to play better, it's that first interception. Now, look, he took a beating, okay? He got sacked 8 times. He got hit, it felt like a million times. I think he got pressured 28 times, I believe. Something crazy like that with Houston. Receivers didn't get open. There's trust issues going on. Maybe he's frustrated at some of Joe Brady's play calls. He was certainly frustrated on that 4th down where they didn't use the timeout and the play came in late. He even said that after the game. There's lots of things. But what I will say, that first interception, it's 1st and 10, play action pass, which Houston did not bite on whatsoever. But James Cook or Gabe Davis, take your pick.
Yeah.
Wide open. And I mean wide open for underneath 5 to 7 yards. And now it's 2nd and very, very manageable. Either or. Last year, Josh Allen makes that throw 9.999 times out of 10 he does last year. Didn't do that this time. He forced the ball into the next level, and it was a bad pass, and it was an easy interception for Houston. But that play, to me, really symbolizes the struggles that Josh Allen is having at times this year. That was just a horrible decision above all else, and there's no excuse for it either. You can't anything else.
And I know he's looking top down on that play, and so he sees what he thinks is a window he can fit it in, and he has to throw it over James Cook to get there. James Cook was right in his line of view, but his eyes weren't there. It was the first thing I saw on the play too, especially on the replay from the back angle where you're watching it that way. It's just oh man, James Cook gets the ball and he goes for 10 easy. He makes one guy miss but he's looking top down. So he must've seen something that he thought he could take advantage of, but whatever it was not there.
It definitely was not. Let's move on to running backs here. So James Cook, 17 carries for 116 yards. 45 of that on a touchdown. The far and away the Bills' highlight of the day. The Bills, lone offensive touchdown for the whole day. Early in the game too. But anyway, he finishes with the $116 on 17 carries. Ty Johnson, 2 carries for 7 yards. Ty Johnson is starting, thankfully, to become a factor in the passing game again. He had 3 catches for 45 yards. I really like that. This is something that we're starting to see now a little more regularly, like we did last year. James Cook, 3 catches for 13 yards. I think this is also a coaching thing, but Cook on that 4th down where he got stopped, he was so gassed. He was looking to come out. In fact, he started walking out and they brought him back in. But anyway, that's more of a coaching thing. What'd you think of the running backs?
We will definitely talk about that 4th down play later.
Yeah.
I think the running backs, I gave them an A. James Cook continues to overperform for me. Ty Johnson's finding a role in the passing game, and like really stepping up in that regard. And Ray Davis is contributing in other ways, which we'll get to. So like I gave the running backs an A. They played fine to me. I think they took enough pressure off the offense where the passing offense should have done better.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Let's go to tight ends. I'm sad, man. Tight ends were so sexy for us for a lot of this season. No Dalton Kincaid again, which, by the way, well, I'll save this for a second. But anyway, no Dalton Kincaid. Dawson Knox, 3 catches for 17 yards. Jackson Hawes, 2 catches for 26 yards. I really didn't see either of them being a huge factor in the blocking game. Hawes did get a nice little piece on that Cook touchdown, but all in all, a pretty uneventful day for Latu didn't do anything. Pretty uneventful day for the tight ends.
Yeah, I give them a B+ because I thought they did fine when we saw them. I just didn't see like a huge impact in the game. I didn't watch the All-22 like I know a lot of folks do. They probably should have had those guys blocking a little bit more or helping out in the blocking on pass situations.
Mm-hmm.
Just based on what we saw from the offensive tackle play. And so obviously that's not on the tight ends to like decide that they should be blocking more, but I just wanted to mention it here.
I said earlier before we got into the positional analysis, like the biggest factor in my opinion is just the turnover differential compared to last year. I think that's played a big role in the Bills' losses. You could also point to, the Atlanta game and the Houston game where the Bills' offense looked lifeless in those 2 losses. No Dalton Kincaid. Yep. He's been a big part of this team, and when he's not out there, which is a problem because he gets hurt. This is the guy he gets hurt. This is not the same offense without him.
And we had this conversation last year after the Houston Texans game about Khalil Shakir, that he was, the straw that stirred the offense, straw that stirred the drink. And when he was out, they just couldn't get any separation whatsoever. And this year, I think it is more Kincaid because of the play calling with Shakir being a lot of those at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage plays.
Sometimes too, things can be an anomaly. Like people just want to say, well, they didn't need him against Tampa. They scored 6 touchdowns, 44 points without them. Yeah. They also turned the ball over 2 times too. I get all that, but you're not going to win a lot in the NFL when you're throwing 2 interceptions in a game and your best pass catcher's not playing. You'll have games like you did against Tampa, but more often than not, you're going to have outcomes like this when you turn the ball over and you're missing your best pass catcher. Wide receiver. All right. Well, Khalil Shakir. Weird game for him.
Very weird.
8 catches for 110 yards. That is impressive. He had that beautiful 44-yard catch and juke on that was gorgeous. But he also was bad early in the game. He had 3 catches for 4 yards, and then he had a big fumble, which hurt the team. It cost him 3 points anyway. But statistically, he had a great game. He came on in the second half, but he had his struggles. Gabe Davis, 1 catch for 22 yards. Josh Palmer, 2 catches for 21 yards. And Elijah Moore, who the Bills went with over Keon here, 1 catch, -3 yards. Nothing for Tyrell Shavers after 4 for 90 against Tampa the week before. And like I just said, a certain second-round high draft pick for a second straight game was in a jogging suit on the sidelines because the Bills went without him. We'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, we get wide receivers.
What was Keon Coleman dancing before the game? I didn't see.
He was not that I saw. He was playing catch with Tracy McGrady.
That's a good guy for him to talk to.
Yeah.
All right. I gave the wide receivers a D-. Shakir's box score notwithstanding, like he had 2 really, really good plays. And I don't think you want to take that away from him. But at the same time, he had a really costly fumble. So you have to ding him for that as well. I liked the glimmers we saw from Davis and Palmer. I'm not 100% sure this was the the game we want to complain about the wide receivers on, because I don't know how often Allen was even able to put his eyes on all of the receivers that he wanted to in a given play. But I do know that, what's his name? The guy that runs his mouth all the time, Emmanuel Acho, whatever.
Yeah.
He, he would, after this game, was going up and down the Bills wide receivers saying they're never getting open and they're not helping Josh Allen. Like, I don't know if I put a whole lot of stock into his analysis or takes or anything like that, but I do think that if they haven't already, the rest of the NFL sphere of influence is caught up to the fact that the Bills wide receivers stink and that defenses are not giving them any respect. And the Bills are going to have to work really hard over these last 6-7 games to show teams that they can move the ball down the field. And I don't know if they've got the horses in the barn for that, but they're going to have to try something.
I just, we can lament every week the wide receivers. And what I'm coming to grips with, just in life, when things let you down, you eventually got to just come to grips with it. And I'm getting there with the receivers. Kincaid and Shakir are capable of monster games. They just are. And we've seen it. They could do great things. The rest of these guys, I just feel like they are what they are. I don't think it's going to change. There's a reason why Elijah Moore, who's had moments, and he's had moments with Buffalo, but there's a reason why he's jumping from team to team. Or, Curtis Samuel just can't stay healthy. I want to get behind this guy so much. I keep saying, well, he's got speed, and they got to unleash him, and he looks better on film than I thought originally. And then he gets hurt. It's just, it happens time and time again. Josh Palmer is a guy who could get you 2 for 21. He can get you 4 for 75 next week. He's a decent third, fourth receiver with speed. That's what he is. Keon Coleman is the guy for me. He's the one who should have the ceiling, who could, where you haven't seen the best of him, but maybe we have seen the best of him. How surprised were you, for starters? Because we haven't talked since this last game. How surprised were you that he was inactive again? Was it to you more of a case of, hey, we scored 44 on Tampa, we're just going to run it back, we're going to ride the hot hand? Or is he just not one of the best 5 receivers on this team? Because, you could make a very good case he's just straight up not one of the best 5 receivers on this football team.
I think you can make that case. I wasn't surprised when I heard the injury report earlier in the week. I'm like, yeah, Keon Coleman's probably going to play. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, Hardman was up for kick returns, and so they can either bring Codrington up or just have somebody else do it.
Yeah.
They have Elijah Moore that can slot in for Curtis Samuel, so maybe he isn't going to play. He didn't really get a full week of practice to prove to the coaches and the rest of the team that he learned from his mistake. So I do think that was working against him, the time issue. If you have to earn your way back, and you don't get an opportunity to earn your way back, it just becomes harder to do, obviously. And so if he's not active against the Steelers, I think it becomes a much bigger long-term conversation. But I do think that it probably would have been a hard turnaround to get him to earn his spot back when they only had, a handful of days to do that. I
feel, and will continue to feel, that you're seeing the last season of Keon Coleman in Buffalo. I don't know that you've seen the last of Keon Coleman in Buffalo, but I do think this is going to be his last season. I'll say this, for what it's worth, he didn't look like he took it. It looked like, all right, so the first game, the dancing and stuff, didn't even look like he took everything serious. This game, from the few cutaways that we've seen or clips and media people put up, it looked like he was into the game. He was engaged. I saw him talking to receivers throughout the game on the sideline. He looked like he was involved in the game, like he was into it. You know what I mean? Whereas he could have been just sitting there and sulking or just acting like, oh, look at this offense, and you ain't shit without me. I didn't catch those vibes from what little I saw or from what little I've heard. You know what I mean? It looked like he was engaged with what was going on. So I'll give him credit for that.
But if you look at if they trade him, which they would have to trade him, not cut him, in your scenario, which they got a 6th round pick for Keir Elam. Well, it was a trade swap for Keir Elam, and he's already been cut by the Cowboys. So I think they could get something for him on the trade market. They have Josh Palmer under contract. They have Khalil Shakir under contract. And then they have Terrell Shavers under contract. And that's it. That's their wide receiver room in 2026 before the offseason starts if they trade him. And so it obviously is not their plan to trade Keon Coleman heading into the 2025 season. But like a lot of things can happen between now and then, especially if he rubs Sean McDermott the wrong way, where you could see them doing a complete revamp, drafting 2 wide receivers, signing 2 wide receivers, and just doing like a complete overhaul of the wide receiver room. And they probably should do that.
I'm going to tell you this right now, the day before Thanksgiving, and this will be easy for me to remember. If there's one, and I mean one thing that I am confident in that's going to happen this offseason, whether the Bills miss the playoffs or whether the Bills win the Super Bowl, I don't care what the cap situation is. I don't care what they got to do. They are going to get a number 1 receiver again on this football team. It's going to happen. Whether it's Brandon Ayuk, whether it's Jalen Waddle, whether it's Brian Thomas Jr., a free agent, Pickens, something. They're going to get a number 1 receiver on this football team. I would be willing to bet a lot of money on that right now. I think the big mystery, Matt, with Keon Coleman is this more, and we'll start to get some answers on Sunday, is this more character, maturity? Sean McDermott just flat out doesn't believe in him. Maybe Josh Allen, for all we know, doesn't believe in him. Is it that, or is it just, again, like I said, name me a receiver that he is better than that's in this lineup right now? You might struggle to be able to come up with one.
I'm way more concerned about him just showing up. If I'm the Bills, if I'm a player, if I'm a coach, if I'm the general manager, it starts there. If he can't even show up to meetings, I can't count on him to be in the room. How can I count on him on the field? And so we've got bare minimum expectations of people in every walk of life, I don't know, if you hire a plumber and he shows up at the right time, but can't do the job, that's not any better than if he can do the job, but shows up late. And so or doesn't show up at all and just ghosts you, whatever. And so there's all of these different factors going into it. And so if he's not showing up on the field and if he's not showing up in the meeting room, well, why is he here?
I don't want to be dismissive of that too, because it's very important. I mean, he hasn't learned from his mistakes. Go back to the New England game. He missed the first series. He got benched because of being late. And what did he do the first time he touched the ball? Fumbled and lost the ball. You know what I mean? So you would think that, oh shit, man, I got benched to start the game and I cost my team a turnover and a close loss. I'm never going to let this happen again. And then he let it happen again. So there's absolutely legitimate cause for concern with that.
Yeah, it's a pretty short list of free agent wide receivers that are going to be available in that stratosphere. George Pickens right now, but the Cowboys can franchise him. Juwan Jennings might be available. He's scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent. Rashid Shaheed scheduled to be a free agent. I don't think he's quote unquote number 1 receiver.
No.
Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Dobbs. That
sounds like more of the same. It sounds like what they already have.
A lot of second. Other than Pickens, it sounds like a lot of the guys that could be really, really good number 2 receivers. And so it might be the trade market that makes it happen. And we've seen when Brandon Beane gets backed into a corner, he's not afraid to send picks. That's why I'm still kind of surprised he didn't go with the 2026 first rounder. If that's all,
I was going to say he was afraid to go. He was afraid to go with a 2026 first rounder for Waddle, reportedly anyway. I don't know. We'll see. Let's get to some other stuff here. The offensive line was an issue in this game as well. And here's what we'll do. We'll take one more real quick break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get to the offensive line, fly through the defense and coaching, and then we'll get to Pittsburgh as well. We're going to take our second and last break for this episode. Offensive line, Matt, 8 sacks. This was, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree, about as bad as I've seen this offensive line during the Josh Allen era. Certainly the last couple of years, 28 pressures allowed. One really good run by James Cook, but if you strip that away, it was a very pedestrian yards per carry for the running attack as well. This was just not good. And They've lost Spencer Brown, which we'll see. We'll see. Again, we're recording this Wednesday. Maybe he gets put on IR by the time some people listen to this. We'll see. But he's going to miss some time for sure. So they kind of lost the battle and the war a little bit in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I gave them a D for this game. It certainly was their worst performance of the season and probably the worst of, the last, say, 2 or 3 years when they've been like super solid. Spencer Brown, you have to give him credit for trying to gut through it. But I mean, he had one arm out there that was probably not the right thing for the Bills as a whole to do. They should have taken him off the field a little bit earlier. The Texans just ate their lunch, man. I mean, they had their number. There's plenty of videos of Deion Dawkins like stopping in the middle of plays now. And like people are really getting up his butt right now about that. And like, it was not good. And so I gave them what did I say?
A D.
A D. Yeah.
Now I'm with you there. Put it this way. If you're trying to get paid this offseason like Connor McGovern or David Edwards, not the highlight tape that you want. If you're trying to get a big extension like Osiris Torrance might end up getting, the Brandon Bean ways, keeping your own. That'll be an interesting one, by the way. In light of these recent batches of extensions that have, we'll say, been a mixed bag this year for the Bills. Torrance could be the next one. We'll see what those numbers are. But anyway, he did not do himself any favor. He was terrible in this game. You mentioned Deion Dawkins. If people are starting to think he's lost a step, he's starting to regress, this is a tape that you would pop in to show. And Spencer Brown was hurt. We'll see how they bounce back because we'll talk about Pittsburgh. They're no joke on defense. What's up?
Right. I did want to mention that I do think it is an indicator that Spencer Brown's going to go on IR, that they opened up Tylen Grable's practice window. He's had a concussion since training camp. And so presumably he's been cleared for weeks, if not months, and they were stashing him on IR. And that to me is an indicator that Spencer Brown is going to miss some significant time, not necessarily like the rest of the season or anything, but he's going to miss a few weeks. And so this is like the first step towards Grable being on the 53-man roster and Spencer Brown going to IR.
Agreed 100%. If Spencer Brown was only going to say miss 1 week, and then you got Chase Lunt, which I don't think they're going to cut him this late in the season. They've worked with him. They developed him. So he's on this roster.
They wanted both guys on the roster, and that's why stashing Grable was the way to go. And now they aren't able to do that. So
so if Brown was only to miss 1 week and Grable gets back, first of all, I got to cut somebody to make room for Grable, which, could be an issue. But having Grable and Lunt both game day inactives, I don't see that happening. So I would assume this is not good short-term news anyway for Spencer Brown. So it just keeps getting worse with the injuries. So let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. Again, some good play, but not if you look at a box score, because they really, no takeaways, no sacks. They didn't have a sack in this game either, by the way. DaQuan Jones had 2 pressures. He's the only player on the team who had 2 pressures on Davis Mills this whole game. They did not get enough pressure on him. No one on the team had more than 1 pressure except for DaQuan Jones. He had 2. Anyway, DaQuan Jones, Deion Walker, okay, it's out there. TJ Sanders, I'm just continuing to be unimpressed by him. I understand he's a rookie and he's missed time and he's moving around a little bit from edge to tackle. I know all that. Just color me unimpressed. I'm seeing a guy who was also, by the way, getting blown off the line in the line of scrimmage. That's a separate conversation maybe for another time, but he's had a rough rookie year. Let's just put it that way, Matt, in my estimation. Jordan Phillips, Larry Ogunjobi. Larry Ogunjobi did have a nice run stop. Defensive tackle.
Yeah, I gave them a C- just because I think that they held the run game mostly in check, which, I mean, if ever there was a get-right game for the Texans offensive line and running backs, it was against the Buffalo Bills, and it didn't really happen. So, I thought they played, I guess okay, but like you said, they didn't really get any pressure on Davis Mills. But that second half, the defense played well in the second half. I know you said something
they
earlier
did play
about how they didn't get any turnovers, and that's true, of course, but they gave the Bills offense every opportunity to claw their way back in the game. And I think the defensive tackles weren't as big of a liability as they have been in the past. So I gave them a C-.
I want to maybe clear up what I said earlier too. I'm not saying the Bills defense didn't play good. They did play good. They played very good. I'm just saying there comes a game or two a year where you're just the other side of the ball just is completely lifeless. In this case, it was the offense. There might be a game where the defense can't make a stop. The Ravens game, although they did get one late, a fumble with that Oliver didn't matter, but it just feels like, hey, like the Detroit game last year, or the Rams game. It's like you got to score every time you have the ball because the defense couldn't stop anybody. This was a game where the offense couldn't do a single thing, where just getting stops and forcing punts isn't enough. You got to get an interception on Davis Mills, a strip sack fumble, something, you know what I mean? If you're not putting directly points on the board, that you're setting up the Bills already in scoring position when they get the ball. You know what I mean? They didn't have good drive starts in this game. So that's what I'm saying with the defense. It's not that I don't think they played good. They did, but they just needed even more in this game. And you know where they didn't get it? I'll just go right there. Edge. Joey Bosa, Greg Rizzo, of course. A.J. Solomon played some. He returned from a concussion. Javon Solomon. I was looking this up while you were talking because I wanted to make sure I did not get this wrong. Where are you guys? Greg Rizzo, 22 pass rush attempts, 0 quarterback pressures, 0 in 22 pass rush attempts. Joey Bosa, 25 pass rush attempts, 1 quarterback pressure. 1 quarterback pressure between your 2 edge rushers who each had 22 plus attempts. Meanwhile, the Houston edges absolutely terrorized the Buffalo Bills, and it was filthy ugly. So I got a big problem because I just set my standard higher for guys who have big money. You get big money, you get high standards. Based on that, I thought it was trash what the edge guys did. And again, 3 points, 35 yards in the second half. How critical can you be of any part of the defense? Man,
you can be critical.
Make a turnover, go make a play. I thought those guys were trash in this game. I think Joey Bosa is becoming more and more a problem. I don't know if I know he's playing hurt with the wrist. I don't know how much that has affected him. I don't know if he's playing too many snaps early in the season and they wanted load management. It has not worked out that way because of the injuries. I don't know what it is, but he is a mistake machine who ain't doing shit out there, just straight up. I don't know. What do you think, defensive edge?
Yeah, I gave them a D. I don't think you can watch the play. I don't think you can watch the all 22. I don't think you can look at the box score and say that they were successful in this game. So they need to get more from that defensive end position. I don't think it's going to be Fox. I don't think it's going to be Lawson. They need more out of those top 2 guys, is what your point was. And to see them on the opposite side of the field from those 2 absolute studs in Houston, I think really drives that home for a lot of people, because there's games where they're making plays or they're getting in the backfield and they're like getting so close to getting a sack. And then you watch what the Texans did to Josh Allen and the Bills offensive tackles. And I mean, they put him in a blender. That's what we paid for. That's what we wanted out of those guys, and we are not getting it.
Joey Bosa, listen, he's a pass rush specialist first and foremost. I want to see him play better against the run, but whatever. He's a Buffalo Bill. Get the quarterback down when it matters.
Yes.
And it's frustrating. You go back, and I wanted to make sure I had this right. You go to the Chiefs game, magnificent. He had 7 quarterback pressures on 30 pass rushes, a pass rush quarterback pressure rate of 23.3. Fantastic. All right. Since that Chiefs game, 0 pressures on 15 reps against Miami, 2 for 24 against Tampa, and 1 for 25 against the Texans. So 0, 8.3, and 4.0 has been his quarterback pressure rate his last 3 games. Again, after the 23% against Houston. And don't even get me started, against Kansas City. Don't even get me started about Greg Rizzo. He's a $6 million a year run defender from what I see. You could get a guy like him who can make he's Shaq Lawson, basically, right now. He's good against the run. A little better than Shaq Lawson, but give me a play. And he's not giving you any plays. I could go on. We could have a whole podcast about these edge guys. It's pissing me off right now. Linebacker. Terrell Bernard gets hurt again. Not his fault. Not his fault. Kind of a freak play. Matt Milano's helmet does it. We'll see how long he's going to be out for. We don't know as this recording. I thought he was playing pretty well early on. Gets hurt. Matt Milano, who Sean McDermott said had his best game of the season, he thought, had 4 tackles, 1 for a loss. He was okay. Shaq Thompson returned. He was fine. Dorian Williams, fine. Pretty interesting to start the game. To tell you where the Bills were with Matt Milano was they went 4-3, and Matt Milano wasn't even one of the 3 linebackers. They were going Bernard, Shaq, and Dorian, and Milano was coming in nickel. Obviously, Terrell Bernard gets hurt again. That changes, and now Shaq Thompson's going to be taking over the Mike position, I'm sure, for the foreseeable future. What do you got with linebacker?
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I gave them a C. I thought they did okay in this game. Again, the second half, the defense played well. And, I think that the Bills linebackers were a part of that. I did notice that when Bernard went out that Shaq Thompson was the one that got the dot. So they did not make the move to Matt Milano. It was right. Shaq Thompson that was there for every down in the second half. So I just wanted to note that here.
Corner. And it's interesting to see. I don't think this team plays enough 4-3 to begin with. Although they start out, there was one play in the game where you watch the film that really made me mad. It was 4th and 1. Houston went for it. Teron Johnson had the guy in the backfield.
Yeah.
Couldn't bring him down. He dragged him for the first down. That should have been Dorian Williams or Shaq Thompson in the backfield. They were in a nickel defense in 4th and 1. Like, what are we doing here? But unfortunately, with Bernard down, you might see more of it. Although Dorian Williams could play it too. Maybe you see some Milano, Shaq, and Dorian Williams at linebacker. All right, corner. Christian Benford, fine. Injury scary. He certainly didn't kill the Bills.
Yeah, I was worried.
Yeah, me too, man. Trey White, look, he's not hurting the Bills. And he's not necessarily, doing any great things, but it's not like they're saying, there's Trey White, we're getting after him. That's not happening. He was fine. Max Searson was okay in the game early. Unfortunately, he got hurt. He's in concussion protocol. We'll see how that plays out. Maybe the mini bye, the couple extra days could help him get back on this field sooner. Teron Johnson, I sound like a broken record. He is who he is at this point. He's a serviceable nickel corner in this league at this point. He is not the star player that we've known over the last handful of years. Cam Lewis played sparingly. Did get beat on a touchdown. I'm not going to blame him for that. It was inside the 8-yard line, whatever. It was a play. Corners, I don't know. What do you think, man?
I mean, when you entered the season, especially with Max Hairston injured, you would have said cornerback was probably the biggest liability on the Bills defense. Probably.
Agreed. Sure.
And they weren't a liability in this game. I mean, if you look at what the wide receivers for the Texans were able to do, obviously the Texans designed this to get the ball out of Davis Mills's hands. There's too many S's there. Quickly. And so they didn't push the ball down the field to Nico Collins. They didn't do a lot of those things to test the cornerbacks. And so I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why it looked like they played pretty well. I gave them a B-. The Texans only had 153 yards passing. It wasn't like they were gashing the Bills over and over again at cornerback. So B-, and hopefully both Hairston and Benford can play in this game.
The only play where a corner really hurt them bad on one specific play was Teron Johnson got cooked.
Yeah.
At the end of the first half, that 44-yard catch and run where he just got cooked over the middle of the field. That was a big play allowed. I'm looking at the stats. Yeah, otherwise they were fine. Christian Bedford allowed 3 catches, but for 51 yards, I'll take that every day. Safeties. Nothing really impactful per se. Jordan Poyer was okay. I mean, again, he hasn't really hurt this team much. He saved 4 points on one drive. I know that for sure. He pushed that guy out, and I think it was Woody Marks, and they ended up holding him to a field goal. So he saved 4 points early in the game for them. Cole Bishop didn't have any sacks or picks. He did, he let Nico Collins know who he was, though, man, because he hit him really hard. Plus, it was a really nice play to kind of, as he was falling down with his arm backhanded to chirp him up a little bit, because that might have went for even more. But, again, another not, game-changing type plays, but they were fine at safety. What do you think?
I'm just same thing we said about cornerback. If it wasn't cornerback that was the biggest liability, it was going to be safety, and they weren't a liability in this game. I love I keep loving watching Cole Bishop, and how he has really come into his own on the back end. Jordan Poyer, like you said, has played better than we all anticipated, I think, this season. I gave them a B for this game. Again, the Texans only had 153 passing yards. They didn't really, they didn't really test the Bills' safeties and quarterbacks a ton. I think it was better than we would have anticipated earlier in the season.
When we go through the Matt Warren report card here, kind of made my point for me indirectly with what I was saying early in the show. They gave up 3 points in the second half. They gave up 35 yards in the second half. Yet every grade we went through, your highest grade for any unit on the defense was a B.
Yep.
They needed to have a couple A's.
Yep.
And I agree with your grades. Your grades are spot on. But my point was they needed to have a couple A's on this defense to take the ball away and basically go out and win a game for an offense that was just completely inept.
Yeah, think about how much different that would be if they got like that Cole Bishop interception from the Bucs game, or they got one tipped pass, or made one strip sack like you were talking about. It just, the whole game is different. Now, obviously, it's funny because we're talking about helping out the offense, and we're about to get to special teams here. Like, they already got the offense already got help, and then the defense played well enough to win that game. And so it really, that's why it really grinds my gears to talk about the offense in that game, because they got all the help they should have needed.
100%. 100%. The defense played more than well enough to win. I'm just saying that they had to go even more above and beyond than you'd want to ask for because of the offense. Special teams, God, this is such a weird night, because happy birthday, Ray Davis runs a kick back for a touchdown. That was awesome. Yep. I think I heard that was only the fourth kick return touchdown in the entire NFL for the season. And at least as of that game anyway. I don't know if there's been any more since, but that was awesome. And I don't know what happened to hell. Ray Davis, I used to hate Ray Davis being back there. I'm like, that's just get a slowish running back out there to get some reps, and maybe you're lucky get out to the 30-yard line or so. Dude's turned into like Devin Hester the last couple of weeks. He had 3 44-yard kick returns last week. I'm going to look it up while you're talking, or you can look it up while I'm talking. He might be leading the NFL kick return average right now. I'd be shocked, actually, if he's not, considering he had 3 44-yarders last week, and or 3 of at least 41 last week, and then a kick return for a touchdown this week. So that's the good. Ray Davis gave the Bills what should have been a huge lift before the first half, and then the defense completely squandered that right away in the last minute and 3, which was freaking beyond frustrating. But anyway, that's the good. There's plenty of bad, too. Khalil Shakir on one punt runs backwards, loses yards, and the Bills got called for what was one of their 3 holding penalties on returns. Not 1, not 2, 3 penalties for the Bills on returns. So that's bad. And then, of course, Matt Prater misses an extra point, which certainly mattered in this game, the way it played out, which is funny. I'm watching the game with my kid. It absolutely mattered. My kid, I'm watching the game with him, and he bitched about the extra point. I'm like, dude, if it comes down to a missed extra point against Houston, the Bills are in trouble. Well, it did come down in a way to that, because the Bills, once Deion Dawkins jumped on, they would have went for it anyway on 4th and 1 at the end of the game. But once Deion Dawkins, the false start, it's 4th and 6, I guarantee you the Bills are kicking a field goal and taking the game to overtime. So that was meaningful in that game. By the way, little nugget, you talked about Grable, he's back. Still no Tyler Bass practice window. That makes me think, with Prater missing another extra point and they still not opening up his window, I'm starting to think that you're not going to see Taylor Bass at all this season. I don't know how much of it is the injury itself, or if there's other factors that maybe we don't know about, but him not having his practice window open here all the way at week 13 after a Prater missed extra point, which I believe is the second one he's missing recently, and it's getting colder out, that tells me that I'm not confident you're going to see Tyler Bass. But anyway, special teams, what do you think?
Yes, Ray Davis does lead the NFL in kick return.
Knew it. Ray.
At at least among the group that's eligible. This is only showing 2 people with touchdowns, which I know is wrong. So the other guys that have touchdowns just may not have returned enough to get on this list. But yeah. So that extra point ended up playing like a big part in the strategy of the game. And so obviously it was important. They had the penalties. Like it's hard to give them like a super bad grade when you do have that. The kickoff return for the touchdown, and like they almost outscored the offense. Like so. I gave them a B just because like I really like seeing kick return touchdowns from the Bills. So there you go.
The 3 penalties were annoying.
Yeah.
3 holding penalties. I mean, the Bills, so the Tampa game, I don't have it in front of me, but I know the Bills had amazing drive starts against Tampa. The Bills had lousy field position for most of this game against Houston. I think going into the Tampa game, they were second from the bottom in the NFL in average drive start going into the Tampa game. And then again, they had a great week against Tampa with that and back to being lousy this one. All right, coaching. I was happy early. Like when they went for it on the first drive, it was 4th and a half a yard from their own, 19 or 20. It was definitely inside their 30 and they went for it. I'm like, yes, I love that. I love it, love it, love it. And there's lots of things that I don't love. I'm going to let you take this over. What are your thoughts with coaching?
So it landed on a C-, and it seems higher than it should be, right? Like it does. The defense was like an A for me. Like obviously they didn't quite get it all, like maybe A-. Like they didn't get it all the way to like getting a turnover or anything like that. But especially when you look at the second half, I do think the Bills defense was good enough to win that game. Obviously we've talked about this already. The offense I gave an F, and so I kind of averaged those into a C-. Whatever Joe Brady's doing, man, it is not the right thing. And so, you're talking about calling the same plays over and over again, getting in the play late on that 4th and 1. And that was your play call. Like I said it in the moment, like if that's the play you're going to call on 4th and 1, you should have punted it because that was it was absolutely terrible. You've got, a freaking rhinoceros, at quarterback who can do so much. And they've already converted several of those tush pushes. Just go for that. You don't need to get fancy here. Like normally I'd be like, oh, maybe you could do like the shotgun, QB draw / RPO thing, whatever. But against the Texans defensive ends, I just think the tush push is the right call and just go for it right up the middle. It just the lack of separation from the receivers, the lack of creativity on offense, it's very bad. And to hear, obviously the fan base wants Joe Brady gone right now. Sean McDermott's not going to do that. I do think that it would be in their best interest to try to recruit Brian Daboll, whether it was a week ago, whether it's now, whether it's next week, at some point for the stretch run, to just do some self-scouting for them, even if it's just that. Like, I don't need him calling plays. I don't need him designing plays. I just need him. Like, he had such a great skill at being unpredictable and, breaking his own tendencies, that if he can come in and help Joe Brady do that, I think it would be a really great benefit to this team. And I don't even know if he wants to, but like we saw it last year with Robert Saleh go to the Green Bay Packers after he was fired from the Jets. Then he went back to the San Francisco 49ers this year as their defensive coordinator. Like, you can go home again if that relationship is still there. And so I know I'm talking about a guy who's not on the coaching staff right now, but I do think that there is an opportunity for them to get at least a little bit better at coaching with an addition. Like we talk about free agents all the time. Well, here's a free agent coach that could come in and help you right now.
Never say never.
I know.
I'd be stunned if Sean McDermott brings Brian Daboll back. I'd be stunned. I'm not, never say never.
Me too.
I will say close to positive that I think Joe Brady will not be the Bills' offensive coordinator next year. I'm growingly confident in saying that. Maybe he gets a head coaching job. I don't know that he necessarily gets quote unquote fired. Like maybe he gets a head coaching job somewhere else, maybe college too, if not the NFL. Maybe there's a mutual parting so that he's not fired. I think this is the end of the road for him in Buffalo. I think Sean McDermott is saying the right things in public. I think Sean McDermott is very frustrated with Joe Brady. I just think he doesn't want to fire a coordinator late November, mid-November for the second time in 3 years this late in a season, because that could be, that could be a directly negative look for him
Well,
as well.
I think it's less that and more that they just don't have anyone that can
That's
really
a good
do
point
it.
too. Yeah.
Like Aaron Cromer and Rob Boris have experience doing it.
Yeah, they call them plays though.
Not Boris did, but I don't believe Aaron Cromer ever did.
Yeah.
But like that was a long time ago, and not a lot of teams go from tight end coach to offensive coordinator mid-season when they, and plus it was, by the way, it was the Rams way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I don't see it happening because they don't have a great option in-house. If they had Joe Brady from 2 years ago as quarterbacks coach, it's a different conversation.
So the Bills this Sunday are going to be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Steelers are 6-5. I don't think we really need to do analysis, paralysis by analysis when it comes to the Steelers. The Bills offense better get, and the offensive line specifically better get their shit together by Sunday, or it's going to be a long day for them, because that defensive front for the Steelers with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Bennon and Cameron Hayward are no joke. Nick Herbert's got 6.5 sacks, which is more than double what Greg Rizzo has this year. That front's no joke. And then they got Jalen Ramsey and Joey Porter Jr. at corners. Those receivers are not going to get open easy with those guys. Their defense is good. They're more susceptible, a lot more susceptible than, I'd say, Houston, where you can run the ball. You can have success running the ball on the Steelers. Matt and Aaron Rodgers should be back. At least that's what Mike Tomlin is saying. This is a big game, dude. This is a really big game. I feel like this. If the Bills beat the Steelers, you get to 8-4. They would have to borderline, and you're going to beat the Jets. You just got to find one more win. To me, it's about getting 10 wins at this point of the season. Once the Houston game ended, I was like, the AFC East ended. Give me the 10 wins. 10 wins is guaranteeing me the playoff spot, as far as I'm concerned anyway. Get to 10 wins. And I'm giving the Jets game to the Bills now. So that's 8. Got to get 2 more. Win this game, you're at 9. You hold a tiebreaker over the Steelers. It's collapse city if you win this game. You lose this game, you're going to fight now. You're going to fight to make the playoffs. I think if the Bills lose this game come Sunday night, people are going to be talking about, are the Bills going to make the playoffs? Podcast, article, or conversations, SB Nation, Buffalo Rumblings, articles. Are the Bills in danger of missing the playoffs? And there's going to be validity to it, I think, if they lose this game. I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs if they lose, but I think it becomes a legitimate conversation if they lose. What's your mindset going into this game?
Right. Yeah. I mean, as far as the playoffs go, like having a tiebreaker over the Steelers and Ravens, so you have a tiebreaker over the second place team in the AFC North
and Chiefs.
Absolutely massive. Because then when it comes down to those tiebreakers, plus the Chiefs, by the way, you would have a tiebreaker over 2 of the 3 teams in that mix outside of Houston. And so it just become like, the AFC West is going to beat up on each other too. And so say the Chiefs knock the Chargers down, but now you're you're going up against the Chiefs and you've got a tiebreaker over them. And so it's such a huge game as far as playoff implications go for that reason, more than anything else. Right now they're at 80% to make the playoffs. I think they were 86% on Thursday. And so they actually went down over the weekend as other teams kind of shifted. They win this game, according to New York Times, they're up to 90%. And then, like you said, they beat the Jets, they beat the Browns, they're at 98, 99% to make the playoffs. But there's a couple things I want to talk about. First, you've already talked about how they're 11-11 on the road over the last 4 or 5 years. They'd have to be going on the road as a wild card team into a lot of these places, and so they'd have to win 3 straight games on the road to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
not great. The second thing,
McDermott's by the way, Matt, McDermott's 0-5 in his career in the playoffs on the road.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Earlier in this podcast, you talked about how turnovers were really problematic for the Bills. The Steelers are number 2 in the NFL as far as forcing turnovers. So they live and die by it, though. So their defense, they've given up the 28th most yards in the NFL this season, but they have the second most turnovers. So they live and die by the turnover. So if the Bills can protect the ball in this game more than any other, then they have a really great chance to win this game.
Pittsburgh sounds a lot like the Buffalo Bills of last year. Like the Bills gave up a lot of yards. They couldn't get off the field on third downs.
Yeah.
But they took the football away from you. I was looking at Houston too, because they're 5-5, but they're the one team that have beaten the Bills amongst this wild card grouping. Pittsburgh obviously can join them if they beat the Bills. I'm looking at the Titans, though, and their schedule. Dude, they still got to play. They play at Indy this week. Mm-hmm. Then they play at Kansas City the following week. They're at the Chargers in week 17. And then they play Indy in week 18. That could be easy 7-8 losses, even if they lose half of those. Now, I will say Indy, maybe they have nothing to play for. Maybe they're locked into a 2 seed or something like that at the end of the season. Who knows?
Don't think so.
No.
But having the AFC South and AFC West playing each other this year really helps us, because the Texans or the Chiefs or the Chargers, or the Colts even, they're all going to lose these games to one another. And so it's going to even out. Over the last 8 weeks of the season, the Colts play the Texans, Jaguars, Seahawks, 49ers, Jaguars, and Texans. They play literally 6 teams that could make the playoffs over their next 6 games. And they just lost to the Chiefs after their bye week. So the Colts, man, despite being way ahead early on, their home stretch is very difficult with teams that could all make the playoffs or are in playoff position right now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Jacksonville's, maybe say what you want. Maybe they're not that good of a team, but they're only 1 game behind Indy right now. They're 7-4 too.
And they've got 2 games left against the Titans and a game against the Jets on their schedule. So the Jaguars can definitely make a run here. The AFC playoff race is going to come down to the end of December, beginning of January. But I do think that if the Bills can just win, like you said, win those, 3 games, they can beat the Steelers, beat the Browns, beat the Jets. They're going to make the playoffs. And I said that after the game on Thursday night. I'm like, guys, you can be all pissed off about this game against the Texans. The Bills are probably still making the playoffs. And half the responses were, who gives a shit? They're going to lose in the first round anyway. I get all that sentiment, but you've got Josh Allen as your quarterback. Get to the playoffs, figure everything out for the next 6 weeks. Win those 3-4 games that you need to get into the postseason, and anything can happen.
I'm looking at the Jaguars. You just brought that up, and that really intrigues me. They're 7-4, and things could go either way. So if you're a Jags fan, the AFC South is very much still in play because they do play Tennessee twice. They do play the Jets. Oh, and by the way, they play the Colts twice too.
Yep.
Beat them. You can win. The Colts winning the AFC South is no lock whatsoever.
Nope, wide open.
Absolutely. And even if they lose both those games, if you just beat Tennessee twice in the Jets, it gets you to 10. I am insisting that I think 10 wins is going to get you into the playoffs. So it is time to start looking at Jacksonville as a legitimately one of those 7 teams that should end up in the playoffs.
There's going to be a 10-7 team, I think, that misses the playoffs on a tiebreaker, but I do think that 10 wins is going to be what the 7th place team has.
Agreed. The Chargers have 7 wins. I don't even know who they're playing, but regardless, I could see them getting to 10. So that would be 2 of the 3 wild cards. That means you got Buffalo, you got Pittsburgh, but let's get Baltimore to the division, although it might be premature, but Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City. You beat Kansas City and you're playing Pittsburgh. Again, you beat Pittsburgh, you are truly in the driver's seat. I'm going to give Houston a couple losses near the end of the year. I know they beat the Bills. I'm not trying to be dismissive of Houston, but they're going to get to 7 or 8 losses, I believe for sure this season. We'll say 8 losses because that would mean 9 wins max. So again, it circles back to this game being important, Matt, because if you beat Pittsburgh, it's borderline collapse to not get in. You lose to them, though. Now you've lost to a team that you're going to be tied with in the standings. And, man, I don't know. That Kansas City game last week, though, by the way, against the Colts, frustrating. If the Chiefs lose that game, they're
toast.
They're very close to toast. So Pittsburgh's still got to play Baltimore twice at Detroit. Yeah, there's some losses there with Pittsburgh. Again, it's not make or break necessarily this game on Sunday for the Bills. My whole point was, as I just think it's very important. And if they lose, we're going to at least start having some legitimate conversations.
Right. If Kansas City had lost that game to Indy, they would have been 2 games out of all 3 wild card spots and have lost a tiebreaker to each of the Chargers, Jaguars, and Bills. So it would have been very tough for them. Their conference record would have been 2-5, which is the next tiebreaker. Like it would have been like, curtains for the Chiefs. And so they're just kind of holding on for dear life right now.
Last thing, we'll circle back to Thanksgiving tomorrow for everybody. Well, people listening to this on Wednesday anyway. Besides family and, and good food and hopefully some laughs and some good times for everybody, some pretty good football on TV and some important football kind of on TV as it pertains potentially to the Bills. So you got Green Bay and Detroit, the 1:00 game, and that means nothing to the Bills other than just a fun, entertaining afternoon of football. Then you got the Kansas City Chiefs going to Dallas, and I don't think the Chiefs are any lock. Dallas could play. They beat Philly this past week.
Yeah.
They're at home. That offense is humming. So if they could get a couple stops, defense plays well, that's no gimme. Again, the Chiefs lose that game, they could be in trouble. And then even the Sunday or the Thursday night game, I know Cincinnati sucks, but I always say it. That's not the Joe Burrow Bengals. If Joe Burrow plays, and if he's not, maybe I don't know about it as I'm opening my mouth now. But if they got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, who's back from suspension, even though they're going into Baltimore, Lamar Jackson's been hurt. He's not playing very well either. It's funny. Him and Josh Allen are taking turns having a little bit of a regression contest, I guess, in some areas of their game. But anyway, that's not a gimme game for the Ravens either, I don't feel like. Not if Burrow and Jamar Chase are playing.
Divisional games on a short week are never a given, in my opinion. And so, we just saw what the Cowboys rise up and beat the Eagles. Like divisional games hit different. And especially if the Bengals feel like they still have a chance to make the playoffs or like they really want to ruin the Ravens season, like that should be at least an interesting game. I don't it could end up being a blowout too, but it should be interesting. If Black Friday's Bears and Eagles game, they're both 8-3. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the season? We got some good football this weekend. Hopefully the Bills can land that plane on Sunday afternoon. Remember, it's a 4:25 game. It's a late game.
It is right. It is a late game. Is it really a late game?
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know why I thought it was a 1:00 game. Well, it doesn't matter.
Because you've got 3 games on Thanksgiving.
That's
you've got a game on Friday. You've got a game on Sunday night. You've got a game on Monday night. So you need 7 nationally televised games, and the Bills and the Steelers. You knew that they were probably going to have decent records at this point in the season. So they put those teams in there, and they're probably going to be okay.
I don't know why I thought that game was at 1:00. I'm glad I talked to you. I would have found out before that anyway. But anyway, all right, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm going to let people know too. So you're watching this or listening to this on Wednesday. No podcast on Thursday. Not going to drop one for Thanksgiving. Plus, I want to see what Chiefs do. We'll have a Black Friday episode. It'll be a pod bag style episode, but we'll go over some of the stuff that happened on Thursday. Saturday, going to have a bonus episode. That'll be our Bills Steelers preview. So Saturday instead of Thursday, Thanksgiving. And then for a Sunday night, going to be live 9 p.m. with Joe from Queens to go over the Bills Steelers game. Make sure you're following Matt on social, whether it's Blue Sky. I almost said Blue Cry because now that's mine and Joe from Queens. I call it Blue Cry to piss him off, and I got him saying it now. But anyway, Blue Sky and Twitter X at Matt Rich Warren, SB Nation, Buffalo Rumblings, of course, as well. Appreciate you, buddy. Have a good Thanksgiving too, man.
Thanks, you too.
All right, guys, be back. Not tomorrow. Be back Black Friday. Brand new episode then. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, folks.